is a webinar on Prism, Auto Min-Max, Auto PO, and I guess we had a little SRO in there. I'm thinking maybe we just get the SRO out of the way because it's so easy. It's really not related to Auto Min-Max or Auto PO per se. So maybe we just knock that out because it's really like a 5-minute concept, and then we're done with it pretty much. So we might come back to it though, because I could totally see how SRO could feed into to the, like, once you generate a PO, the SRO might help you if you were evaluating it, right? So anyway, what is SRO first off, right? Let's just start with going over to inventory and see if I can point a finger to something that would scream SRO. Come on, a little VM here is not really screaming this morning, is it? All right. Yeah, not seeing what I'm looking for here at all. All right, that's fine. So SRO stands for sold, received, on order. So let's hop around to admin console, and let's go to node preferences and inside the company. Usually I like to set preferences inside the company above the stores. It's the right place to be. Grid formats, and grid formats is where we get to play with our screen design. We don't need to see the stores while we're doing that. I'm going to collapse those. I'm going to pop in here and go to inventory lookup. And we're going to skip down to the bottom here and just see if we can take a look. And this is maybe it's a good thing that I didn't have those in my screen, right, to begin with, because by default, they are not in your screen, right? So if you're playing with SRO, and there's one of them right there. There's the O in SRO, right? I just saw it. There, on order quantity. So sold, received, on order, right? So I can put the on order quantity into my inventory screen, right? That's basically what SRO is. So there's the received quantity, great. And then we're looking for one more, Mr. Sold quantity, all right. And really, for me, mostly when I'm in here, I'm not sure I care a great deal about received. Most of my clients don't. Mostly people care about what they sold and what they have on order, right? So if we move this up, for instance, where is, oh, there it is right there. So I sold so many, I have this much on hand, and I have how much on order, right? That's kind of what I really care to see. Anyway, so let's save that. And it's saved. Let's get out of here. And of course, we have to log out now. Is when we make changes to our screens, they will pop into the screen eventually, but the browser actually holds that data, right? To make it load fast, the browser holds it. So I'm going to do a Control-Shift-Delete, and that's going to prompt this. It's a keyboard shortcut for the browser to clear the cache, right? So I can clear that saved data, and okay, it should be done anytime here. It's usually not this complicated. And anytime. Okay, then I can get rid of this tab. I don't need this tab. Now Control-Shift-R, Control-Shift-Reset, just forces it to reread that data, right? So then I can sign back in and see if I accomplished my task, right? That's the first step here. If we're going to play with SRO, you got to have the fields that you're going to be populating, or you're not going to see anything, right? So we go to store operations and merchandise and inventory and search, and collapse this search window so we can just see the whole thing here as soon as it gets done searching. And do I have my fields? Yes, I have my fields, right? So my sold is there, my on order is there, and my received is there. Now, a warning up front here. This is a sandbox. This isn't real data. It's really bad data, in fact. So, we may not get great results, is what I'm trying to say, right? Okay, so here is the fields, and we got nothing in them. Now, when we look at these fields, when it says sold, I mean, what is that? Yesterday? What is that? This month? Last week? 2 weeks ago for the year? I mean, it doesn't say, does it? So SRO, I'm going to back this out just so that I can go back in and refresh it in a second. But SRO, you have to know what the date range is. So if we go to the menu and we go to this thing called Technicians Toolkit, it'll open a new tab for us and it'll let us into the Technicians Toolkit. And we sign in, please. I'm just going to sign in as sysadmin. And the Technicians Toolkit's got all kinds of stuff. We're not going to go through all this stuff in here. There's just all kinds of menus and areas for maintenance within Retail Pro in the database. But we don't care, right? We're just going to click on Utilities here at the top. And we're going to see where it says SRO, right? And we don't have anything in here because we've never done this, which is probably fine. So let's see here. Preset name. I'm going to say SRO 90. Okay, I'm going to call this one 90. I'm going to click open my subsidiary and check both stores and slide down here a little bit. We'll see where it says receipts. We're going to open this receipt thing up, pull the drop down menu. And of course, I called it SRO 90 because my intent here is to have 90 days of sales, right? 90 days ago. And then we'll do the same thing for receiving vouchers and 90 days ago. And then we're going to say purchase orders. Now, purchase orders, you can do what you want on this one. Some people like to see everything. Some people like to see current on order. I sort of lean towards current on order. So current on order for me would be like a 60-day duration, right? Starting 30 days ago. If it's more than 30 days old, it's probably dead, right? And I don't know that I want to go out further than a month, not to see current on order, right? So
yeah.
So that is a profile that we can save, right? And now if I pop back up here, now I can see that there's a profile there, right? But I also could, I think I can go in and change this. I could say SRO 365, for instance, right? And we could make a new one here. Do I have to? Yeah, let's go and change this and see if it works. So let's see if we go. This is actually not working out the way I want here. I'm just going to close the tab and come back in fresh. I think there's a way to reset that, but you know what? By the time I figure it out, we'll be wasting time. So I don't want to sort of skip over it and get to the point, right? So what's important here is that there's two aspects of this tool that I want to basically understand, so to speak. We can schedule this to be running at whatever like interval we want. So we can have this thing run every night for a predetermined value, right? And then we could go and manually run these. But you know, we know that tonight's schedule is gonna reset it to my default, right? Now, with such crappy data as I have, if I'm gonna test this, I gotta test it with something like a year, you know what I mean? Because I don't got any data to speak of. It's embarrassing. But now for me, on order wouldn't change. I only still want to see current on order, right? So I'm just going to keep that nice and tight. And we're not using the order date. We're using the ship date. We're going to click save on this. Now I'm going to click down here that I want to run this one, right? So at any time, I can come in and load a profile like that and just click run, and it just runs. It's done, right? Now I could also go in and I could say, I want to schedule this. And if I schedule a profile, which I don't think we're going to finish here, but we can give it a description. We can say what the starting date is, right? I can say run frequency. I can say daily, every morning at whatever time I want, right? So I could have this thing running every day automatically without a problem. Let's just see if it worked, right? Let's go back now and say merchandise and inventory and search. I mean, some of these guys, I have to have sold some of these guys, right? Right. So Oh yeah, so we got sold quantities in the sold column. We don't have any on order. We have some nice received quantities, right? But yeah, that's SRO right there. That's you see what I mean? It's not really related to auto min max or auto PO per se. Um, although I will swing back around here, and then we'll get on to auto min max and stuff. Swing back here and go back into our node preferences, node selection, inside the company, down to grid formats, right? So we toyed with inventory, but the other one would be to consider would be inventory search from a document, right? Inventory search from a document is the screens you would use if you were on a purchase order and you were making purchasing decisions in inventory, right? This is the screen you'd be using then, right? Say so. So this one would be the one to have your SRO in. So that when you browse out to inventory, it really should have the ALU in there. It's weird that we don't.
It's up at the top.
It is now, yeah. So
okay.
this is searching, right? This is how you search, and this is what shows on the screen, right? So, um, so I guess I'll add it real quick, and then we can come back and maybe look at a PO if we generate one, and see how that goes. There's the on order, and keep going. There's the sold, and there's the received, and save, and that's probably good for now. All right, so merchandise utilities, auto tools, right? They gotta change the name every version, right? So auto min max, and then calculate min max levels. So basically, we can set up a new profile, right, for whatever I want to set the profile up for. So in other words, don't bite off more than you can chew.
Okay.
Auto min max, it's a great tool, but people I've seen that have failed at this, they try to do the whole store. That's it's just too much. Like you can't wrap your head around it. You can't. You can try, but you're not going to succeed. I can already tell you. You got to pick a small area that you know pretty well. I mean, because when this thing calculates numbers, you might have screwed up the formula. It might be calculating bogus numbers. But if you know the area and you know how it sells and you know how to buy for it, the buyer's going to recognize whether the numbers are bogus or real. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Right.
So we can name this whatever we want to name it. I'm just going to name it. I got like 2 vendors. One of them is Nike. Okay. I'm just going to call it Nike, right? Okay, so date range. So in order to calculate sales, to min maxes, we have to look at sales. We got to see how it's selling, right? So we need a sample of data to go and check, right? So there's a bunch of dynamic ones in here, right? We use months, we can use weeks, we'll use months, I guess, whatever, right? So I want to say it's 24 months, starting 24 months ago, because again, I have no data here, so we're not going to get anything anyway, right? But the date range is very important. The shorter the date range, the more current the date range, the more current the data, right? The more current the trend, right? But then a month may not be enough. You need at least like 90 days, I think, to get a big enough sample to know that you're making a decent evaluation, right? You could also look at like if you're going into winter, you could look at last winter. But then new items that you just introduced won't have sales history, right? So there's just a lot of variables to consider there on that one, right? So we'll check out both the stores. Over here, we're going to need to add a formula, right? So we're going to add a formula here. We'll call this Nike. Formula type is data supply, not annualized. Annualized is a tricky one. If you analyze 90 days, it's going to assume that you could maintain that rate of sale for all 4 quarters and multiply everything by 4, right? Because 90 days is a quarter of a year. And so it messes with your head. It messes with the math. And I have not seen anyone who likes to use annualized. I've tried to use it over and over again, but everybody gets like caught in the math and they can't make it fly. So I like days of supply. I like that a lot. So down here in the condition, got greater over lesser than, right? So let's take some different examples. Like, which way should I go? Greater of or lesser of, right? So I have a client, I've had several clients actually that they are tennis shoe shops. They sell, and I I'm not a tennis shoe head. How would I know, right? But I guess the Air Jordans, the white Air Force Ones or whatever, right? I guess they're like the dress shoe of tennis shoes, right?
Okay.
And I've been told this like by three different people. And so on those, they can never be out of stock on any size. Like the rest of them, they can be out of stock on, and they can order sizes. But this one tennis shoe, they have to be in stock all times. So if you're looking to never be out of stock, then you're going to use greater of. And you're going to say like 1, or like give me whatever, 30, 45, whatever days of supply, right? So now, if I analyze 90 days and I sell 6 in 90 days, then I'm selling 2 a month. So 45-day supply is 3. You with me?
Yes.
If I sold 0 in 90 days, then 45-day supply is 0. But it's choosing the greater of the days of supply or specified quantity 1. You follow? So you see, by choosing greater of, you can never be 0. You'll always have 1 in stock. And if you think about a tennis shoe run, I mean, a men's size 6, okay, 1 is enough. A men's size 15, okay, 1 is enough. Like, I don't need to have 2 of those sizes on the way in, if you know what I mean. Because I'll sell one of those every 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in the middle, where I'm selling 10.5s and 11s and 12s, right? Then yes, I need to have more based on the days of supply, right? So if I want a 45-day supply, then it's just going to figure out what that rate of sale is and what that is, right? That's all it's going to do. So then, of course, on the max quantity on the bottom, right, we could do the same thing. We could say down here, greater of. I would stick with 1. If it's at the low end, 1 and 1, right? I don't care, right? If it's not selling, then just 1 is enough. But here, I might bump this up, right? I might say I want 90-day supply or 60-day supply or something. I don't want to have the flexibility to increase the order on the items that sell well. You see where I'm going. Now, if had we chosen lesser of, then it would have given me the lesser of, which could go to 0, right? So with lesser of, I wouldn't need, for instance, if we tweak this one, if I go less than, and I say 0. Now, if you have a 0 here, that's being ignored, not being read. So the lesser of here would say 45-day supply. So it would just take you down to 0 if the item wasn't selling. So if you have sales, it would show the days of supply, and if you didn't, you wouldn't get any. But that might be appropriate for some of the areas that you have very eclectic items that you will buy and bring in, and when they sell, and maybe you'll bring it in next year, and maybe you won't, right?
Right.
So there might be areas where you want to toy around with lesser of, and or there might be areas that you definitely need to say, look, I need to have at least 1 of these everywhere, right? Now, that means you're going to have to filter this down, right? So I'm going to flip this back to greater of, so we have a consistent example here, right? And let's talk about the filter right down here. So now we get to play around with the filter and decide how I'm going to get there, right? So and I guess that's kind of, for me, maybe the most important thing is because I got 2 vendors. So what does it happen? It goes right to Nike. Nice. Right, but I could add more here, right? I could add, if I wanted to add another field here. I didn't want to add another Nike. Oh, I see what's wrong. I'm on the wrong field up here, right? So I could go to description 1 and I could add this, right? So weird. they're still tweaking this, and then there's a new version of Prism that just came out last week that I need to load and play with. Right. So then you've got to ultimately build your filter, and this is the tricky part, right? You got to get down to something that's that's a small sample that you can play with, right? The first thing that when I was setting this up at an airport down in Texas, the first thing we did was candy bars, because there's only like 24 candy bars, right? But every kiosk there was like 12. It was like 4 regular stores and another 8 kiosks around, and that they were, and every one of those had candy bars. And if they were out of like candy bars, especially Snickers, apparently, then they were missing sales. They were just so they ran the auto min max based on the sales of the kiosks. Then they would run auto transfer like twice a day. Like they had a warehouse downstairs 3 stories below the airport, and they would come up the elevator and run around and populate everybody with their candy bars to make sure everybody had plenty of candy bars all the time, right? Now that's a good example because it's a very small, like it's less than 2 dozen items, right? It's a very small set of data, right? Really easy to get your head around, right? So that's why we started with that, because it was fundamentally important for them to keep those stocked, and it was just easy to get their head around so that they could apply the concepts of how that worked to other merchandise, right? So this is like nobody would really do all of Nike if they carried Nike. That would be crazy, right?
Crazy. I used to buy Nike, so yes, that would be crazy.
It would be stupid. Yeah, you would have to get down to a nice subset of data that was much smaller, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to save this, and we're going to click run. And if you want to continue, yes, I do. It's going to go run this thing, which sometimes this can take a minute. I mean, it shouldn't take a minute because I got no data, right? So, that makes it easy, right? Then let's go to options here. And so then we would want to look at the review the data, right? We'd want to go and take a look at what it did. And we'll click search. And it should come up with a Nike thing here. Let's just get, I mean, I don't know that I really need to, yeah, all right, there we go. No, I was gonna say I could filter to Nike, but like I can already see Nike here, right? Probably should filter to Nike, but you already see that it's got a new min here and a new max, right?
Okay.
So let's collapse this so we can kind of take a look at what's going on here. Right, so what's important here is the current min, right, versus the new min being suggested, right? Now, of course, my data is just completely bogus and ridiculous. So, yeah, because 3XL sells way more than, or small. Actually, this is small. Like the small one here apparently is selling way better than anything else. Yeah, that's not America. Americans are fat. There ain't no way that's happening.
Yeah.
Right. So this is clearly crap data that I just toy with to make a sale to be able to report on something, just to have something, right? But in real life, you would want to be comparing, like if you had min max levels, and it's not a bad idea to set min max levels up manually, like with just your hands, and just go in and type in it. Like the candy bars, you could totally do it with something small like that. You could take a small area in your store, go put in min max based on your buying experience and knowing what you know, right? And then start running auto PO, which we're going to go run in a minute. And then what you'd find is that you made some mistakes, right? That you set mins too low on some items and too high on others, right? That here you're overstocked and here you're running out of stock before you get your next order, right? And so you'd go in and massage those up or down, and then rerun the auto PO. And so doing that for a few months is a really good experience, so that when you get into auto min max, you understand these numbers that are coming up on the screen, right? And
what happened to our sold received on order column?
Well, that's SRO. That's in inventory. We're not in inventory, are we?
Oh, okay.
Right. So those. That's why I said. That's why I said SRO really doesn't pertain to auto min max. It's a nice feature, and you should absolutely be using it. I mean, if you can see your sold on order and received in inventory while you're browsing around, why wouldn't you? Right?
Right.
I mean, you can schedule it, have it run, have it populate inventory, but that's inventory. This is an auto utility here. This is a tool, right? This can't see into inventory. It can't see my sold. It can't see my on order. Nope. All this is doing is it's taking that formula we wrote, saying choose the greater of, basically zero or one or a days of supply, and so everything's getting one that didn't rate, and pretty much everything here didn't rate because it's crap data. But if we had real numbers in here, right? If we could see real min maxes that you had tweaked, that you had worked with, and that you trusted, you follow? That would tell us whether we wrote that formula correct or not, right? That's the advantage of doing it by hand first, and putting the min max levels on, and tweaking them, shall we say, and then coming back and running an auto min max on the very same thing, which I find to be really interesting sometimes, because sometimes, I think buyers get the min maxes with a little bit of work. I mean, they usually make one pass, then they make some corrections, but I'd say they're in the high 90% accuracy. I mean, buying is a knack. Buyers are pretty good at what they do. I was never a great buyer. I toyed around with merchandising and stuff. I was a numbers guy. I was a store manager. I was an operations manager, and I worked with a lot of buyers. And I'd use the planogram. They'd come in behind me and make the department look better when we're opening a store. And it was just embarrassing because I wasn't a merchant. You know what I mean? So, but people that have that skill are quite good at it, and I'd say they hit in the high 90 percentile accurate on levels of stock for min max. But then there's always one or two that sneak in and surprise you, right? That you didn't see coming, and that's the fun part. That's the interesting part with auto min max, is it throws you a curveball and you're like, wait a second, that shouldn't. Oh yeah, no, it is selling that well. All right, yeah, cool. It's kind of cool to see, right? So in here, we can fix these, right? So if we said, okay, there's no way that this small is selling that well, right? Sorry about that. Talk way too much probably in my line of work, right? So we could bring this down, right? And we could come over and we could say, okay, I think the large here should be higher, right? Right. Yeah, all right. So it's pissed at me because I tried to bring this one up before I brought that one up. So it got mad at me. So I have to bring this one up first. That's why I got the little warning, because you can't have I tried to set the max was at 1, and I tried to set the min to 2.
Yeah.
And so then I had to go set the max at 3, then set the min to 2, right? Because I mean, it sort of makes sense. I hate when it's right like that, but yeah, it absolutely makes sense that you can't have a min higher than a max. That is a true statement, right? So, and really a 3XL, come on, it wouldn't be that way, right? There's no way. Maybe like that on a 2XL, but all right. So anyway, we if we click update here, and we say update all items. Now, if we do quantities only, it would only update the things that we have a min max on. If we do all items, it'll do all items. So if we deliberately did not, like for instance, if we did lesser of it and we had zeros in there, and those items in the past had a min max, right? 0 is not a quantity, but if we say all items, they're getting updated down to 0, and in fact that might be the appropriate thing, right? I mean, if they're not selling anymore and it's time to wave goodbye, then maybe they fall off the min max wagon, right? So I'm gonna click. I'm gonna comment real quick before I click update, but you could do the company thing, but and I have a couple of clients that have used that one recently, actually, on min-max. How many stores do you have? Just have one?
We're single store.
Yeah, you don't care about it. Then your store min-max is your company min-max, and you don't care, right?
Right.
Um, so, do you wish to continue? Yes, we do. So what it should be doing is should be moving those things, the new min-max column, over to the min-max column. Right, there you go. See, so they hopped over. So now they're real. Now they're actually out there, and we could use them for auto PO, right? So,
Okay.
well, let's see if that works, right? Let's go back out of here. Or I think I can just go to right here. I think I can just go to purchasing configuration. Now, I'll click in this way, but I want to back up and go in properly too to make sure that everybody on the recording and everything gets where we are, right? So, auto utilities, right? Auto purchasing, right? Calculate
Okay.
purchasing. Now, we were already in auto min max, and so we were able to shortcut right in without having to go back through the formal menus, and it took us right here, right? So, we're going to click, do I have any configurations? I don't think I do. No, I got nothing. Yeah, fair enough. So if you're running this and this here, you could absolutely be running pretty regularly, right? So, talking about auto PO now. So, let's say we order them once a month, right? Let's, then once a month, I'm going to have to come in here and basically load my configuration, right? Once I get it set up the way I want. So I'm going to click new, and we're going to call this, I only have one vendor, I guess. Let's call it Nike here, right? Associate, you can make that be whatever you want. All I have is sysadmin, but normally the buyer's name would be in the associate, right? It's going to generate POs. That's the format it's going to generate POs in right now, right? So we can change this. Like, I probably, if I was toying with this, I would want vendor code to be probably first. So I'd want, oh, not the time. Holy moly, man. Nobody cares about the time you made the PO, right? Why is that even an option, right? So, I would probably do like that. I would say vendor code like Nike, then today's date, and then the sequential jump number. Now, the system generated number, you see, it's grayed out. You can't uncheck that, right? Because
Okay.
you have to have a unique number in there. So
Right.
if you made two POs for Nike on the same date, you'd have the same PO number twice, and you'd be in trouble, right? Now, if you had multiple stores, then I would bring this one in to play, right? I would want to see which store it was on, somewhere in there. I don't know that the end is the right spot, but the point is, if I had multiple stores and I'm writing POs per store, I would want to know, it's this vendor on that date to this store, right? That's all relevant. Then of course, at the bottom here, we've got our different PO types, right? So I can write a PO on a store. Drop ship is to a store, right? That's what drop ship is. Although it's a terrible phrase, because drop ship in
It
real
is terrible.
world, it means something totally different, right? So
Yeah.
they just should have said store, store POs and marked for POs.
Yeah.
Marked for, I like that phrase. Marked for means that this PO is shipping to the warehouse, but some items are marked for other stores, right? That not everything's actually staying at the warehouse. So marked for is good. I like that one. That was a good one. Drop ship for you. I mean, we could do a drop marked for, but for you, you're always going to do drop ship for your store. That's all you're going to do, right? You're not going to go crazy and have marked fors. PO notes are just that. There's not really anything going on there. Yeah, this is the other one is multi-store, right? But you're not really doing multi-store, so we'll skip that. Order date is today. I don't know why we would change that. Ship date, I can say, 7 days from days of order, right? And then cancel date, I can specify cancel date if I want to or not, right? Now I can also just say quit the number of days thing and say give me a cancel date that's, let's say 30 days past ship, so 37 days, right? Do you use cancel dates?
I do.
All right.
And I usually use a standard 30-day.
Yeah. No, I like canceling. I don't usually share them with the vendors, but I like them in filtering. I mean, there should never be a PO past cancel. I mean, past ship, yeah, but not past cancel, right?
Yeah.
So So I find them useful in managing the POs, right? To know that a PO is too old is what I find. So anyway, over here, we could say what we're ordering for, right? So we'll stick to a single store since that's what you're doing. And then we'll click into analysis. And fill levels can be minimum or maximum. So that's why we have a min and max, right? Because we could also say, well, I don't really want to go all the way to max. I just want to go halfway between min and max, right? So now, here comes the goofy, stupid question part, right? See if I can get a notepad up here. Let's toy with your head here for a minute. So first off, I'm just going to say that this could be a trick question. Just going to say that up front here. So if we have a min, let's keep the math really simple. Like, let's just say the min is 10 and the max is 20, right? Okay, those nice, even, clean numbers, right?
Yeah.
And we're ordering, our order is to 50% between min and max, right? Okay, and we have on hand, we have 11, right? So the question is, how many do we get? It's one of those the plane leaves Boston traveling at 400 miles questions, isn't it? So the trick question here, by the way, and I failed at this one, so I'll just fess up to that, right? The trick question here, the trick part of the question is
Okay, so it just explained to me the order at 50%.
Okay, well, what's halfway between 10 and 20? Halfway between 10 and 20 would be 15. Right.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, we'd get 4, except
Right.
that our on hand is greater than our min. So therefore, we don't qualify for a reorder.
Okay.
Because you have to be below your threshold. You have to be below your min to qualify. So that's what I answered 4, and the correct answer here would be 0, right? Now, if we reduce this to 9, we said that our on hand was 9. Now it would just be a straight up 6, right? Because at 9, ordering to 15, you need 6 pieces to get there, right? You qualify, you're below your threshold, and you're ordering to 15, so you get 6. If you see where we're going.
Mm-hmm. Following.
So it's an important concept to understand that this min is the threshold that initiates the order, right? And so back in auto min max, which we went through just a minute ago, when you're evaluating those, and we really didn't get into that, but most buyers kind of know this, but the two things you have to take into consideration is the frequency of the order and the lead time, right? So if you're ordering every month and it takes 2 weeks to get there, you need 6 weeks supply, right? So we said 45 days. That is in fact 6 weeks supply, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's how you come up with a 45 or a 60 or a 20. And then typically, if I actually needed 6 weeks supply, I would have padded it by probably a week or two, right? I would have bumped it to 60 probably, because business isn't perfectly even. Some weeks are way bigger than other weeks, right? So it is what it is. You need a little padding in there, right? Anyway, minimize that, get that the heck out of there. Right. So they've added some features in there. I think this one here is supposed to say, do not use min as your threshold, right? Order items above minimum means don't use minimum as your threshold, right? So if this was checked off on that first example where we had 11, our min was 10, and we're going to 15, 4 would be the right answer, right? If we turn off the min as the threshold, then we're going to get 4, right? Now, the problem with turning this off is if we're ordering to min and we have 9, we're going to get 1. And that's what happens when you turn off the min. You typically get onesies, a lot of onesies, and nobody on either side wants to pack or receive onesies, right?
Right.
So you're much better off saying, I plan when I set my min max up, I plan to order at 50% between min and max, right? And knowing that I have a bare bones 6 week supply on the min, but I can take more on the floor than that, right? Now,
Right.
if you're ordering to max all the time and business picks up, then you have no headroom. You just have to order more often, right? So when you're thinking about min and max, you kind of want to. I kind of want to target the perfect order amount to be halfway between min and max, right? That's kind of where I'd like to land. Everybody's business is a little different, so I can't say that's right for everyone. But um, all right, so select item filter. Let's go down and grab our vendor, right?
I had a
So
quick question.
go, fly like the wind.
Okay, so how does a case pack affect these numbers? So if my case packs are 6 or 12 and I only need 2, will it go ahead and round up to a case pack of 6?
Typically, yeah, there's a configuration and preferences for that, and
Okay.
typically, if you have a case pack, so if you've said you've got a case pack, I believe the configuration, and off the top of my head, I'd have to go look at it, and I can't really bail out of this right at the moment, but
No, okay.
you can choose to round normal up or down. So if you needed 2 and the case pack was 6,
Okay.
and you said normal or down, you wouldn't get any, right? If you said up. Now, I'm going to say most people say up because when you're ordering, especially if you're ordering for like customer orders and min max, you can't short a customer. If you're ordering for
Exactly.
customer orders and you need 2, you need 2. That means you got to order 6, right? So most
Yeah.
people, when they configure that case pack thing, they configure it to go up because you can't short an order. You can't short a customer. So normally the answer would be yes, you'd get 6, probably. Good feature though. I mean, I definitely would always use it because
Yeah.
with units to case, you have to have a units to case number in the field, or that rule doesn't apply at all. Then you're just Aegis,
Correct.
right? So the rule by turning it on doesn't do a damn thing until you start putting numbers on case packs on items, right?
Right.
Then it starts working. So I would say, yeah, that's a great feature. Always use that feature, even if it's only 3 items in inventory, right? I mean, it's still a great feature. So, right. So then we've got our analysis roughed in. Over here is our committed, right? So do we want to consider sales orders, right? Do we want to look at things on sales orders? So if I have, if I have 11 on hand and my min is 10, I'm above my min. I don't qualify for order, but I have 5 of those on sales orders. Well, those 5 are committed. So now actually I only have 6, right? So now I qualify, right?
Yeah.
Now, for you, um, transfers in and transfers out and in transit would not have any bearing on those. Those are multiple
Correct.
store things, right? I generally don't do a lot with transfers in or out because transfer outs usually when you're using auto transfer, most of my clients that have a warehouse and use auto transfer, the auto transfers are auto generated and they're one and done. Like if we don't have it, if it says pull 3 and there's not 3 to pull, there's only 2. So we're back ordered 1 on a transfer order. We're not going back to that. We're just generating a new transfer order next week, right? We're never going back and filling old transfer orders. So I usually don't consider those because of that, right? Because they're just they burn them, they fill them, then they inactivate them. And if they forget to inactivate them, I don't want this checked off and I don't want to see it. The exception there would be a multi-store environment, and I know you're not multi-store, but in a multi-store environment for people on the recording, um, if I have a PO and it's a multi-store PO, so it's a Mark IV PO, I've got stuff going to 5 stores on one PO that's coming to the warehouse. They're new items, they're not on min-max, and I generate an auto transfer order. So I've got pending a transfer order and a purchase order next to each other, right? And when they receive against the PO, it warns them that there's a pending transfer order, and then they go and execute the transfer order and generate transfer slips, right? So in that situation, I probably would want to see that if I'm a multi-store environment and I do that. And it would be really important if they're also doing auto transfer that they clean their damn auto transfer orders up, right? Um, in transit just means it's on its way to the store, right? So probably if you have multi-store, you'd check that off. This is probably a safe thing to check. I think I agree with it, right? If the POs pass cancel, then yeah, I mean, like, except for possibly a gun shop. The gun shops, they leave things on back order for years, but the rest of us pretty much don't have that problem, right? All right, so below this we have PO date range. Now, oddly, the PO date range might be one of the most important pieces to this process. It depends. So your items, do you guys ever do like preseason, like Christmas orders, like, like it's March and you're ordering for Christmas already?
Yes, we do.
Right. So now for some of those items that we might having a big event or need a bunch of them at Christmas, we also might need short-term fill-in orders before then, right?
Correct.
Right. So if auto PO, I think we have to agree with this rule. If auto PO sees it's on order, it ain't going to order it again, right? Like it's not going to double up orders. And I think I have to say that's good. So what we have to do here in the PO date range is we got to say what it can see, right? So if
Okay.
I'm doing a short-term fill-in order and I've got preseason orders on stuff, then I could safely say, look, okay, if it's on order, if it's a little bit late but it's still on order, then I'm okay with it, with you seeing it. So I'm gonna say, give me 30 days forward, give me 30 days backwards. If it's on order in that window, then don't reorder it. But if you see it on order, 6 months from now for the next season, yeah, forget it. Don't look at that one.
Correct.
Only look at,
Okay.
keep the horse blinders on nice and tight, right? And then I honestly don't use the PO filter. I've really struggled on why someone would use this. I mean, we already have a vendor filter, so if it's on order and it's in Nike, then it's on order, and if it's not, it's not, right? But I mean, I could, you know, maybe, maybe I'm a buyer, and maybe I only want to see my POs or something. I'm trying to struggle with why we would even filter it by the PO transaction value. You see what I mean? Um, I don't see a great reason to, and I haven't had anybody who wants to do that in 28 years. So I'm going to say save, and then run. So normally we'd come in here and we could just say load the configuration, right? So we would just load this configuration. Once it's built like this, next month I wouldn't have to go through all these gyrations, right? It would already be here waiting for me, and I could just come in and say run this, right? And say, yes, we don't have anything in there. I've never run auto PO on this one, right? Analysis complete. Great, good, fine. So then we would go over to the review, right? We'd go back to the review now, and it would show us what it's picked to order, right? And
Beautiful.
I could take these and uncheck them, and nobody does that. You can absolutely do this. Now we did one vendor, right? Now, if it's a big vendor like Nike is enormous, and I've even been up to their campus where they used Retail Pro for a while, and uh, you would need to chop this down into smaller pieces, right? You could do Nike apparel, maybe men's only, and then women's only, and then some shoes. But on the other side of that coin, if they're small vendors, I might be actually filtering for 5 vendors at once, right? It might kick 5 POs, right? I don't know that I want to look at 5 different vendors' merchandise
Yeah.
mixed together here. I probably don't, in fact. So I would just click down here, generate mark, right? I would just say, just go ahead and write the damn POs, and I'll look at them one at a time myself, right? So it went out and generated a PO. Now we're going to get the heck out of here, go down to store operations, and we're going to go to purchasing, and we're going to go to purchase order lookup and see if there's not something that's got today's date on it, right? I mean, a lot of this auto min max and auto PO is tinkering with it. You know what I mean? With trying it out and seeing how it flies, and then going back and tweaking the process or tweaking the filter or the formula and the min max, or you know, it just is playing around with this stuff and seeing how it works. So here's our PO right here, right? So if we click OK on that, It just shows us the PO, right? It's the 4 items that it found, right?
Yeah.
Now here, well, let's see if this even works, because I didn't reset the screens, but we'll roll the dice and see, right? We got nothing to lose. So to come full circle here, right? We're now evaluating this, and I could absolutely, I could actually remove items here, right? I could certainly go out to inventory and I could add items, right?
Yeah.
And out here in inventory, we'll see if this works, because again, I did not reset the screen, but maybe it worked anyway. Let's see. And it did not, right? So here is where SRO would show up. Now I could go reset the screen like I did earlier, right? And I could get those changes to flow through, if you see where I'm going. But so here, though, here's where I would be able to see my on hand, right? I'd be able to see my SRO, right? I'd be able to see what I'm putting on the PO right here, right? So I could add items to that PO right there. Like I could say I want 5 of those and 5 of those and 5 of those and 5 of those, right? That's how this choose edit function works, right?
Okay. Yeah. Or if you had a special order you needed to add on there, you could do it
Oh
there.
yeah, totally, totally. In
Yeah.
fact, to mention that, I would even say if it was a special order that didn't exist, you could come down here and click new, and you could just build a new item, right? Right here.
Correct.
I mean,
You
so
just add it
yes,
to your document.
it could, and you could,
Okay.
yeah. Now in this mode, you are correct. You have to finish it. You have to give it a department, a vendor, and
Yeah.
save it, and then you can get to the doc order fields. Correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to cancel this. We don't. I think we all know how to build an item, right?
Yeah.
Not sure we need to go through that as an exercise, but return to document, and of course it's going to have the other items I threw 5s on. Now it's going to have some more items in there. I'm going to click it's already saved. That's good. I'm going to go back up. So I'm going to go back and log out. So when you reset the screen, you really do want to log out, because when you do the second one, the reset, it's going to, that little spinning circle of death, it's going to go crazy. It's going to spin forever. So again, the keys here, just for the recording and making sure that everybody's on board if they're playing with this, the keystrokes are Control plus the Shift key plus the Delete key, right? So there's an extra E in there, I think. And anyway, so that's that one there. That lets us clear the cache, right? That lets us clear the browser cache. Um,
Okay.
and then the next one is an R, right? And that is, by the way, this clears the cache, right? That kind of cache, not the kind you spend at the casino. You know what I'm saying? Well, one of our sales reps was like, "We clear cache." Like, no, that's a different kind of cache. It's a totally different kind of cache. So anyway,
And the
when we
purpose of
do
that one.
yeah, when we do that one, like this one is easy. Control Shift Delete. This just brings its own tab up. We do the clear. We
Okay.
we we clear the stuff, and then we get rid of the tab. But the other one is where we get like the little circle, which we're going to see in a second here. Come on. See, this is a virtual machine. This machine that you're looking at is a machine inside my computer, because all my licenses, I have so many licenses and so many different versions, and I can't run them all in the same box. So I have to make virtual machines. Anyway, so here we do a Control Shift R, right? And so here it's usually pretty fast. It just flashes like that. It's good. But if we were logged in, it would be trying to re-render that screen, where this screen is very simple. There's nothing to render there, right? It renders very quickly. But in here, I've done Control Shift R's in here, and then the circle just spins in the middle for like 10 minutes, right? So don't do that to yourself, right? That's bad. Now we'll see if it works, right? So if I go back to purchasing, purchase orders, purchase order lookup, come on. Okay, search, great, good. Checkbox, and okay, and edit, and click on magnifying glass here, hop out here, and search. Oh, there they are. Yeah. So I don't think like last time. I don't believe we had a slider because
We didn't.
all the fields that were available were in fact showing, right? So I added these onto the end. I didn't move them. I should have moved them over. I mean, if they make more sense over next to quantity, right? I don't really need the vendor's name or the UPC. I'd rather those be over to the right and have these be in the fields. You know what I mean? Where I don't have to scroll to see them, right? But you can see how useful these could be if you're out here ordering and you've got your
Yeah.
on hand and you can see you're sold and you're received and you can just make ordering decisions over here, right? Um, and on that point, I had one client he ordered for stadiums, right? Um, and in one PO, he'd be ordering like, we're number one, foam hands, right? And the foam hands are huge. You get 12 to a box and they're shrunk. They're in plastic shrink wrap things, but they still take up the entire bay underneath the seats in the stadium. Like you can sell more of these in 30 days than you can keep, right, in the building, literally. So he'd run the SRO for 30 days and he'd go out and make some POs. Then he'd go back and he'd reanalyze it. And then next he might be ordering like authentic jerseys, which are $335 a pop, right? So he's looking at 18 months now. He's not looking at 30 days. I mean, those things turn very slowly, right? So for him, the SRO tool was his primary reporting tool. And he would just pop out there and you can have this thing open in another tab, right? And you can just pop out here and then load a different configuration. Or we're in scheduling mode, right? So let's see if we can go back to yeah, you've been logged out, whatever. Turn to document, pop back in. You can just pop in there anytime, right? From any place in the program, right? You can just go right to the start menu and pop into there, log into it, and then just go right to utilities and run a profile. So it's so easy to reanalyze your SRO on the fly. You can just go in here and say SRO tool. It pops up. You say load profile. We got 2 profiles. Okay, I want the 90-day now, right? Run, boom, and it's done. And you pop back and you're over
Hello?
here, right? Right? You with me?
I am.
So then I could come back and I could go, I want to switch to 365 now and rerun that. So I can switch these profiles out if I leave this window open, and I could go write different POs, right? Very, very handy. That's what I meant by we'd come full circle and come back to SRO in the end, because it's really not part of the
Okay.
auto min max or auto PO process, but it can be very helpful when you're tweaking this PO after auto PO, right? I mean, it absolutely can be very helpful.
I have a quick question. When you set
Good.
min maxes for a vendor, can you get a total of commitment for that model?
Good question. So could you get like sort of an extrapolated, value at min, what the total value would be?
Correct.
I don't know of any way to do that in there properly. Now, and that being said, um, I think that a report could be written in Crunch to do that. I don't see why that wouldn't be possible.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
if I could type about that.
I mean, it might be a customer effort. We might have to get some assistance. We have some programmers that help us out with that. But the programmer that I'm thinking of, she just charges the same hourly rate that we charge. So if it took her an hour of tech time, it would just be an hour of tech time, right? It wouldn't be $100 or something you'd be invoiced for, right? It would be, which is nice, I gotta say. But yeah, I don't see why you couldn't write a report for that pretty easily to get, because there's any given item, there's a cost. I mean, it's cost you're interested in, right? And then there's a min level, right, and a max level. So to say the min times the cost is this number and the max times the cost is this number, put those in 2 columns. I don't see that that would be a problem to do. I
Okay.
don't see that. I'm pretty sure that would be pretty easy to do, in fact. But I don't know of anywhere in here that we can do it now. I would want to take a quick peek at this real quick. Merchandise inventory, search down and thinking, oh, you know what? I probably should switch over, shouldn't I? Yeah, I should have switched over. Come on, finish up. Thank you. Let's just go to style view. Let's go to style lookup. Come on down, Mr. Style. And we'll just pick a style. Here's this logo t-shirt, right? We don't care. So we're going to go to style details. And what I want to see, come on, you can do it. There we go. What I want to see is in here, right? So see, this is critical. Store min and store max.
Yes.
So if you have a style of any kind, I don't know how many styles you really have with your products. I'm trying to think if you do have any styles. You might not. But
I have
if
a
you
lot of styles.
Excellent. So you can basically go in here, and now when I click edit, it's going to blow me up. Actually, you should always click edit first. I'm sure you figured that out already.
Okay.
Anyway, then you switch into min. Now you could edit the min level here. You see what I mean, for the entire style.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is huge. This is huge. Now, what version? I don't know what version you're on. This here is FYI.
We're on 2.2.
Excellent. That's well. So 2.2, perfect. So you're on the same one that I'm on, probably. I'm on 68.
Yeah.
Now, 104 just came out. So this is almost the current one. As of last week, it was current. Now it's one old, right? But and of course the other one, and maybe you've already played with this too, is that you can edit UPCs here. So you could drop all your
That's a good reminder.
It's an excellent. Otherwise, it's really painful to put UPCs in. I mean, it just is. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So this is a really nice 2.2 feature. I'm gonna have to check out the new version and see what it has. But the min and the max really, if you're doing like manual min maxes on a style, and a style would be a perfect place to start. Like make 2 or 3 styles in a category that are really popular, that you know what's going on with, and just go hack the heck out of the min max levels in here. And now save between, like put the mins in, save, then edit, and then go do the maxes, right? I don't think you can switch one menu to another, not in the browser, and it won't save both sets of data, right? You'll lose one set. So save as you go, in other words, right?
I'm using a new tool, the Prism import tool. I'm trying to find the actual name of that puppy.
Is it like is it like a CSV import tool from like a Malcolm?
It's Prism 2.2. Let's see what other information should have here.
Is it a separate tool, completely separate, standalone?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then I think I know what you're talking about. I haven't played with it yet, but it's very similar to the other tools that do the same thing, where you build a map.
I'm wondering if I can import. Yeah.
You can import
I bet
min-max.
I can import min-max.
Oh, you can absolutely. Yeah. Now with those tools, with min-max specifically, without seeing the screen, I can tell you.
Yeah.
If you had 5 stores, you would have to indicate which store the min was going to, right? So typically when you get to the min, on the bottom there'll be a field called store, and you'll have to put like a 1 in there. Then you can add the min, right? And it'll say min for store 1. And if you put a 2 in there, it would say min for store 2, right? But you only have one store, but you still have to specify that that's the store you're putting the min in, because min actually has a separate table, because it's the item times all the different store locations, right? So it's just like that one little extra thing. You gotta indicate which store you're doing for min maxes. There's a few of those that have that extra piece there at the bottom. So but yeah, you can absolutely. So with that tool, you could take like an export out the item SIDs, for instance, and maybe the description, enough to know what you're looking at, right? And the min max columns. You could then fill in the min max columns, right? Now, going back in, I probably would make a new map. So if I had the item SID out there, or the UPC, whichever, you need a key. You need an identifier, right? And the item SID internally is the best. On the other hand, if you've got UPCs, those are pretty solid. You really can't go wrong with UPCs, and they make sense to us human beings, right? So either one, I don't think it matters. Now, if it's UPC, then on the first page of that tool, you have to indicate that the primary key is UPC. If it's SID, you don't. SID, it understands what a SID is. You just don't check off UPC, don't check off ALU, and it'll assume it's the SID, right, automatically. So A SID is a system ID, right? It's like a 24 character numeric
I don't
value.
use that. So is that generated from within Prism or is that
Oh
vendor
yeah,
level?
no. Every item has an item SID and a style SID, and every
Okay.
vendor has a SID, and every department has a SID, and every document has a SID. Every receipt has a SID. So for instance, if you made receipt number 100, and then somebody went in and reset the sequence, and you made another receipt 100 in the same day, would they mix together? No, they wouldn't. Each of those have a
Yeah.
unique SID, right? They have a system ID that is the ultimate unique identifier in the background. So customers have
Okay.
these, everybody has these, everything, every unique piece of data has them. And it'll be in your map. You'll see it. And when you're building a map, you'll see item SID. Um, and an item SID is unique for every item, whereas a style SID is the same for all members of the style, right? I mean, but uh, who cares? Don't use a SID if you don't want to. If you've got UPCs and everything, use UPC and just
Okay. Cool.
check off UPC as the primary identifier. The point I'm making is I would export out like 5 or 10 fields, and I would
Yeah.
import back in 3. I would import the import going in would have the UPC, the min, and the max. Like I would not
Okay.
risk overwriting any data. So if I had the data out there
Thank
and I'm
you.
typing my min maxes in, and I actually make a typo in description 1, and I don't
Yep.
notice it, I'm not going to risk importing that back in. There's no reason to, right?
Brilliant.
I might have done this once or twice.
It sounds like it.
Right. So you want to keep your import maps just stripped down to the key and the things you want to hit, right? The things, the
Yep.
bare minimum of what you want to import. And then your risk on making stupid mistakes is greatly reduced.
Okay.
And that's something you could set up a time with myself or Tyler, and we any of the techs probably could help with that. But in training, we definitely would take a minute and walk you through how to build a map and import. And if you're going to do your first import, I would always do it. I would always make sure I got a good backup. I would do it early in the morning before you open,
Yep.
and I would do a small import, like a 6 items, right? I mean, with 6 items, we could restore the backup and undo what you did. But with 6
Yeah.
items, you probably could just go in and fix them because there's only 6 items, right?
Yeah. I'm being very successful with the import export. I'm loving that tool. I tried
Yeah.
the one that's within Prism. It didn't it doesn't
Well,
have enough for me.
the inside Prism, like I mean, on a document, I mean, on
Yeah.
the all that's doing that's not importing items. That's importing records
Okay.
that are already in Prism, right? That's
Yeah.
saying I put a PO into this website and I exported out what I put on order. Now I just want to import those quantities into an order on my side so I don't have to enter it twice. That's all that is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not actually importing items. That's importing existing items to an order. That's what that is, right? By UPC code. So
Yeah.
so that is it's very useful in its own way, right? I mean, I definitely would say that that I would like to reduce double input. I'm not nobody's a fan of putting things in twice, right? So
Yeah.
if I could write a PO and export that out and import that into the website, or vice versa, write an order up on the website, export that out and import it into my site, whichever, right? Just don't want to have to do it twice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you'd use it on a transfer. I have clients that do, by the way, but only one that I can think of. They just like Excel. They do all their work in Excel, and they import everything into receiving documents and transfer documents from Excel. They save it as CSV and bring it in, right? But that's just their mindset. So it works for them, right?
Um, so is there a place to keep track of everything that you've set to min-max? Or would that just be a report you'd run to look and see what vendors you have min-max set up for?
Um, yeah, I think that so let's just see here. Let's just go take a look. There's not you can certainly run a report, and I think that you may be onto something there. I think that a report might be the right direction to go, generally speaking, on that. I think that wouldn't be a bad choice. I think you'd have some more control over what we're doing right out there. Now, the next
Okay.
question though that comes to mind for me is could you add, and I think you can, the min max to the inventory screen, right? So if I'm in just in, that's the document version, but let's go back to the regular version, right? Inventory lookup. So, in here, is there like a store min max field in here? No, that's the search, isn't it? Yeah, that's the search. We don't want that one. Let's get our butt down here. All right, there we go. I think it would be down in the S's, right? So, all right, store min and max. Yeah, so you could just add them to the screen, right? And just have them be
Yeah.
on the screen and then go filter for a vendor, right? I mean, I think that's about as easy as it gets.
Okay. And so I can't see the top of that screen. Is that you're adding those to the purchasing part or the inventory?
So this is
Inventory.
inventory lookup right now. And I could do this in inventory lookup, which is regular inventory, or I could do this in inventory lookup from a document, right? Which is another option, right? So there's inventory lookup. There's actually inventory min max, and that's the min max tool. So you could add, but they're already on that screen, so I don't think that would help you. And then the inventory search from a document. And I don't see any reason you couldn't add them to both regular lookup and the document. I mean, if you want to see your min maxes, I think that seeing what you have on hand, what you sold, what you have on order, maybe what you received, and what your min max levels are all valid values when you're talking about deciding on whether to order something, right?
Yeah, can you track down and is purchase orders an option?
Now purchase orders, I don't believe you're going to find it. Purchase orders is an option, by the way. So MNOP, we passed it.
Oh,
Purchase
okay.
order. So this would be the purchase order, and this is looking up a purchase order. This is a transaction screen. This is inside, right? But I don't believe that the min max is going to be available here. So these are PO fields mostly, right? There are inventory fields there, and they could have. I mean, UDF7 is definitely an inventory field, right? Certainly, tax percent. Those are all those, but they didn't give us that piece of data, right? They didn't give us the store min max here to play with. But this is looking at the PO, right? Now, the minute you on the PO click that magnifying glass and jump into inventory from a PO, right, where you can select items, you're now in the inventory search from a document, right? So while you can't put them on the PO, this one right here, you can hop into that mode very quickly, right? And that mode, I'm pretty sure. Let's go down and see. We didn't check, but we could certainly take a quick peek. Maybe not. I don't know. No, I don't see them. Pretty
Okay.
annoying. Wow. Maybe I should mention that to the developer.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see those there. I really would.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of information.
Yeah. So right now you can only put them on inventory proper. You can't put them on the search screen from a document, but I could, I could throw that in as a web tack and ask them to add that, and see if they can. I mean, it would be a very low priority fix.
Oh, yeah.
It would make it in a version or two probably. So I don't know why I wouldn't do that. I think I will. So, but still, you can at least evaluate. You could evaluate in inventory proper. You could evaluate very quickly who's got min maxes and who doesn't, right?
Right. Exactly.
All right. Any other questions?
I think that was more than I was prepared to take in, but it was all really good information. Thank you.
Well, the good thing about this whole process, what we went over today, is it's recorded. Of course, you can go back and view it. But the good thing about it
Yes.
is it's a trial and error thing, right? This is not something you take on the whole store. You take little tiny bites, you tweak it, and as you play with it, you get better and better at it. It's math heavy, and it will hurt you sometimes. But the math really is not that hard. It's really not that hard. I mean, if you understand that a PO is only going to order the item if it's below the min, right?
Right.
And you set your min appropriately, thinking about the min is thinking about the threshold at which I wanted to order. And then do I want to order up to 50% or all the way up to max? What do I want to do? I mean, some people just go min and max. Max is what they fill the store to. Min is when it, triggers the order. And that's a fine way to start. No reason you shouldn't start right there if that works for you.
That does bring up one last question. Does it have the ability to evaluate past history and set its own min-max for a season?
Well, right. So in the auto min-max tool, right?
Yeah.
We got to specify the date range. Now, because of my crappy data, we went with a year. But yes, I could have absolutely targeted a specific season, couldn't I?
Okay.
And in fact, what you're describing is not uncommon. Now, there's two ways people get around that, right? One way is to take an aux field and set a season code on items, and then go, and then in that scenario, they don't really necessarily reorder summer season items in winter. You follow? So if you're not planning to order the summer season items, then you probably just want to flag the item and be able to filter it. So you'd say Nike for this aux field summer, right? And then you'd run the summer min max or auto POs. Now the other option is that you for this vendor, let's say this vendor is very seasonal, you might run auto min max at the beginning of the season based on last season, set min max levels. As that season winds down, then you might rerun auto min max for the off season, set new min max levels going into the off season, so you could continue to reorder that vendor at lower levels, right? Now the section option is a lot more work, right? To redo your min maxes twice a year.
Right.
But I've seen people do both. I've absolutely seen people do both. So, and you could mix and match that up too. You could have 2 or 3 vendors where you do multiple calculations a year, and the rest you just run with markers, right? Then say, look, exclude summer stuff. We're only running winter stuff right now, right? In the filter.
And so back to, once you start developing this program, you can run all your vendors at once. You could run max POs for everything that has a min max, and then just go through and physically look at them.
Well, I mean, if you want to go totally crazy, yes, you could just take the filter off, right? I mean, if you take the filter off, then it would just run everything, right? I mean, that's crazy, but yes, you could do that. And yes, we've always been able to filter for groups of vendors. We didn't do it today, but that would be setting your filter up in the auto PO part, right? At the end there, you'd be filtering for more than one vendor.
Okay. Okay, well, it looks like I have some things to talk to Tyler about.
All right. Woohoo.
Thank you so much for your time. It was brilliant.
No, fortunately, no Tammy. Fortunately, I was here the whole time.
I saw you on there. I just didn't hear your voice.
Oh, I'm learning too. There's a reason we hadn't covered this yet. So we'll get back in touch soon, and I'll leave Jeff to say his piece.
All right. Anyway, if that's it, I'm going to tell you to have a good rest of your day.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.